Today we will review the Housing Quality Standards HQS Inspection Checklist Form, HUD 52580, which is one of the GLO's required documents for voluntary buyout or acquisition programs for applicants receiving down payment assistance incentives or tenants receiving URA assistance for replacement housing payments. A hyperlink to the GLO's HQS Inspection Checklist can be found on the Texas General Land Office website at recovery.texas.gov. To locate the document, go to the local buyout and acquisition program page, which is linked below in the description section of this video. Scroll down to the right side checklist section and click on the HQS Inspection Checklist link. Once you click on the link, your computer will open the document on HUD's website. You should download the fillable document. Please note you will need a PDF viewer to view and edit the document. A Housing Quality Standards inspection, also known as an HQS inspection, is required for homeowners in voluntary buyout and acquisition programs that wish to request down payment incentives on the down payment of their new home. In addition, an HQS inspection is required for tenants in voluntary buyout and acquisition programs that will be displaced by the program and are eligible for URA assistance for replacement housing payments. In both instances, an HQS inspection is required to ensure the dwelling that the homeowner or tenant will be moving to is considered decent, safe, and sanitary. Housing quality standards establish the minimum criteria for the health and safety of the program participants by ensuring the dwellings are decent, safe, and sanitary. Current HQS regulations, located at 24 CFR 982.401, consist of 13 key aspects of housing quality, performance requirements, and acceptability criteria required to meet the housing quality standards. Sanitary facilities, food preparation and refuse disposal, space and security, thermal environment, illumination and electricity, structure and materials, interior air quality, water supply, lead-based paint, access, site and neighborhood, sanitary condition, and smoke detectors. HQS includes requirements for all housing types, including single and multi-family dwelling units, as well as specific requirements for special housing types such as manufactured homes, congregate housing, single-room occupancy, shared housing, and group residences. For the local buyout and acquisition program, housing quality standards must be ensured through an HQS inspection by a qualified TREC inspector. The inspector will inspect the property and complete the required HQS inspection checklist, HUD 52580. While the HQS inspection checklist, HUD Form 52580, was created for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, it is a great tool that encompasses all of the requirements for the HQS inspections and is commonly used for other HUD programs that require HQS inspections. Although the local buyout and acquisition program is not part of the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the inspection checklist will be used to ensure that HQS inspections for the buyout and acquisition program meet HUD requirements. The HQS checklist is organized to ensure every unit is inspected in a uniform and consistent manner. Subrecipients will need to ensure the HQS inspections checklist is completed and that the replacement dwelling is considered decent, safe, and sanitary prior to dispersing any URA replacement housing payments or down payment incentives. Subrecipients should understand the basics of the HQS inspection form to ensure it has been completely filled out by the inspector and to understand if the inspection failed, passed, or was inconclusive. If the replacement dwelling fails the HQS inspection, an alternate replacement dwelling that is decent, safe, and sanitary should be found, or the homeowner may elect to make the required repairs at their own cost. The local buyout and acquisition program will not reimburse any cost for repairs to replacement dwellings to bring them up to HQS standards. The HUD checklist separates the required 13 aspects of HUD housing quality standards and lists them in a format that is appropriate for a thorough and consistent room-by-room inspection. For example, one of the HQA requirements for food preparation and refuse disposal requires that the dwelling unit must have suitable space and equipment to store, prepare, and serve foods in a sanitary manner. The HUD acceptability criteria then interprets this to mean that for the preparation of foods, the unit shall contain a cooking stove or range in proper operating condition, supplied by either the owner or the family, a sink with hot and cold water, and a space for storage and preparation of food. The HUD inspection checklist then translates this into the operation checklist items listed in the checklist, such as kitchen area present, stove or range with oven, refrigerator, sink, and space for storage, preparation, and serving of food. Each checklist item is rated on the basis of fail or pass or inconclusive. If any item fails, the unit also fails the minimum standards. It is important that the inspector explain to the right of the item in the space provided what specific conditions caused the fail rating. A check in the pass box indicates that the item passed with no noticeable defects or problems, or that the conditions that were present were not serious enough to warrant a fail rating, but comments were written on the problem or defect. If the inspector rates the item as pass with comment, the inspector must review the written comments with the homeowner or tenant that will move into the new dwelling and let them determine if they find the pass with comment conditions acceptable. In some cases, the evaluation of an item will be such that a pass-fail decision will not be possible during the actual inspection. If inconclusive is checked, the inspector must discuss the item with his or her supervisor or seek additional information. An example of an inconclusive item would be if a stove or refrigerator is present, but the working condition cannot be determined because the gas or electricity is turned off. All items which are originally checked as inconclusive must receive a final rating of either pass or fail before the inspection is considered completed. For instructional purposes, in this video we will briefly explain the different sections of the form. Inspectors should be trained and qualified in HQS inspections and have an expert knowledge of the checklist and requirements. For this video and instructional purposes, I will use an example of a fictional applicant and location to explain the form. First, the inspector should input the information on the family and inspection. The inspector will input the name of the head of household that will be buying or renting the displacement dwelling. In tenant ID, the inspector can input NA as this is not applicable for the buyout and acquisition program. In date of request, the inspector should input the date the inspection was requested by the subrecipient. The inspector should input their name in the inspector cell. In neighborhood census tract, the inspector should input the census tract where the house is located. In date of inspection, the inspector should input the date the inspection took place. In type of inspection, the inspector should indicate with a check if this is the initial inspection, a special inspection, or a re-inspection. In the date of last inspection, the inspector should input the date of the last inspection if this is a re-inspection. If this is a first inspection, they should put NA. In the PHA cell, the inspector can put NA because this is not a public housing program. Section A is general information, which includes the information about the replacement unit that is to be inspected, including the address, the year it was constructed, and the number of children in the family that are under 6. Then the inspector should check the type of housing. In the table asking for the owner's name and contact information, the inspector can input NA as this is not applicable for the local buyout and acquisition program. Section B is the decision on the unit. The first row of Section B is filled out at the end of the inspection and indicates that the unit has ultimately passed or failed the inspection. Also in this row, the inspector should provide the number of sleeping rooms. This information can be filled out prior to the completion. Then the checklist is divided by rooms. Each room is defined by a number on the checklist. 1 equals the living room, 2 equals the kitchen, 3 equals the bathroom, 4 equals other rooms used for living and halls, 5 equals all secondary rooms not used for living, such as a laundry room, and 6 equals the building exterior. Each safety item is then categorized by numbers and is listed for simplicity and continuity in each room. For example, the electricity is always 0.2 and will show on the checklist as 1.2 for the living room and 3.2 for the bathroom. Each box should be checked by yes, pass, no, fail, or inconc for inconclusive. Comments should be filled in with any issue that requires attention. For example, for each fail, details should be given on the reason for failure and necessary repairs. If it is inconclusive, the inspector should comment on why it is inconclusive. And if it is passed with comments, details should be given on the deficiency. Then in the final column, inspectors should input the final approval date if the inspection originally received a fail or inconclusive for that item. In our example, the inspection found a pass with comments on the floor condition in the living room because there was a scuff on the floor. However, the buyout applicant indicated that this was acceptable to them and the item was approved on April 5, 2021. In addition, the previous inspection failed due to the stove being broken. A new stove was bought by the owner after the inspection and was approved during this re-inspection on April 5th. For each room, there is a lead-based paint question. The not applicable row should only be used for buildings constructed since 1978. If the building was built prior to 1978, then this section should be filled out for each room. For our example, the inspector wrote in Section A that the house was constructed in 1968 and has 1 child under 6 living in it. Therefore, each room needs to be inspected for deteriorating paint. There is an additional set of boxes for number 4 to input other rooms used for living and halls. Rooms defined as used for living are areas of the unit that are walked through or lived in on a regular basis. This area of the checklist is generally used for bedrooms, but can also be used for second living rooms, dens, and halls. Do not include rooms or other areas that have been permanently or nearly permanently closed off, or areas that are infrequently entered. For example, do not include a utility room, attached shed, attached closed-in porch, basement, or garage if it is closed off from the main living area or infrequently entered. But do include these areas if they are frequently used, such as a finished basement or a closed-in porch used as a bedroom. The occasional use of a washer or dryer in an otherwise unused room does not constitute regular use of a room. The box by room code and room location should be checked for each additional room. Then the room codes should be input for each extra room. The room codes are 1. For bedroom or any other room used for sleeping, regardless of type of room. 2. For dining room or dining area. 3. For second living room, family room, den, playroom, TV room. 4. For entrance halls, corridors, halls, staircases. 5. Additional bathroom. 6. Other. The fillable PDF doesn't have the ability to add the room code, so inspectors will need to add text or handwrite the room code. Then the room location should be indicated by circling the locations on the form. The room location should be as if you were standing looking at the front entrance to the unit from outside the unit. Record whether the room is situated to the right, left, or center of the unit. Then record whether the room is situated to the back, front, or center of the unit. Identify the floor level on which the room is located. Number 5 is for inspectors to input information on all secondary rooms which are not used for living. Any rooms in the unit that did not meet the definition for other rooms used for living in Part 4 are considered secondary rooms not used for living. Inspectors should rate all the rooms together in one section for other rooms in Number 5. The purpose of Number 5 is for inspectors to identify any other types of hazards that may be present in secondary rooms that may jeopardize the occupants. If there are no secondary rooms, the inspector can check none and go to Part 6. Once the interior inspection portion has been completed, the final sections of the inspection are for the building exterior, heating and plumbing, and general health safety items. Continue to inspect and check each box to complete the inspection checklist. For number 8.11, if the owner is required to treat or cover any surfaces, the subrecipient must obtain certification that the work has been done in accordance with the requirements prior to reimbursement to the applicant or tenant for URA or incentives. No reinspection is necessary if the certificate is obtained. An example certificate contains the following. The undersigned hereby certifies that the property located at insert property address has had applicable surfaces treated or covered as required, and it includes the owner's printed name, signature, and date. If this is not applicable because the owner wasn't required to treat or cover any surfaces, not applicable should be checked. Section C is the Special Amenities section. This section is required to be completed for the local buyout and acquisition program for use with tenants. Homeowners who are using the HQS Inspection Checklist for incentives do not need to have this section completed. Section C is used to gather data about other positive features of the unit. Although the features in this section are not listed in the HQS, the tenant and subrecipient may take them into consideration in decisions about renting the unit and reasonableness of rent. Section D, found on page 7, are questions to ask the tenant. This section is also required to be completed for the local buyout and acquisition program for use with tenants. Homeowners who are using the HQS Inspection Checklist for incentives do not need to have this section completed. In this section, the inspectors should interview the current tenants if there are any. Section E is the inspection summary and comments. This provides a space for the inspector to describe in further detail items that are problematic and created a fail or pass with comments rating. Inspectors should input the inspector name, date of inspection, address of inspected unit, and type of inspection, such as is inputted on the first page. Then they should input the item number in question and the additional information. If additional pages are needed, the continued on an additional page should be checked yes. After completing the inspection and checklist, the inspector should return to the top of Section B to input the final summary decision on the unit as pass, fail, or inconclusive. The inspector should scan the pass, fail, and inconclusive columns on each page of the checklist. If there are any checks under the column headed fail, the unit fails. If there are any checks under the column headed inconclusive, check inconclusive and obtain verification. If there are no checks under fail or inconclusive, the unit passes. However, the inspector should discuss with the tenant any items that pass with comments. We hope you enjoyed this training on the HQS Inspection Checklist form. If there are any additional questions during the completion of the form, subrecipients should reach out to their General Land Office grant manager. Additional videos covering the other required local buyout and acquisition forms are or will soon be available at the same location you are viewing this one.